So again, thank you for coming out. It's actually a really nice day, a great view. Hopefully not too distracting as we get into some of this stuff, because it really is nice up here. So as you all know, being professionals in the field, customer experience is top of mind for business, both in B2B and B2C. And we're seeing trend reports with Forrester and Gartner alike, where up to a third of customers now will stop doing business with brands they actually like, just based on one bad experience. So it's got to be really clear that these improved experiences are directly tied to retention, the ability to have premium pricing, and it's actually seen even more influential as advertising now of having a great customer experience. So with today's topic, in 2019, how do you understand and focus on what the right investments are to create that great experience for your organization? And we've got a great group of panelists here that are going to talk about how they're using the customer experience insights to prioritize their efforts and remove roadblocks, and how they're using this to create great CX and add value to their organizations. So introducing, we've got Brian Holsclaw from T-Mobile. We've got Kit Unger with Smartsheet, and we've got Kevin Schumacher from Disney. So thank you guys all very much for coming and spending some time with us here today. It's really cool to have you up here. So first question, and Kit, I'll start with you if you don't mind, is before we move into 2019, what are some changes that you saw in your organization in 2018 in regard to customer experience?
Sure. So even though Smartsheet was founded in 2005, I have to just give a little bit of history first. So Smartsheet was founded in 2005, but the UX team wasn't created until 2014 when I started. And since then, we've grown a lot. There's 30 people on our team. We've added some mission critical functions like user research, and a lot of heads up our research team. And we added UX writing, but the biggest change last year was we merged the marketing design team with the user experience design team, and we renamed ourselves the experience design team, and we also added a new function, customer experience architect. And so the whole point of all of that, the ultimate goal is in creating meaningful and impactful experiences for our customers, across all of their interactions with Smartsheet. So that was the biggest change last year.
Great.
Interestingly, T-Mobile did a very similar thing. I mean, my shirt even says product and technology. So previously, before the second half of last year, we were two completely separate orgs underneath two different EVPs. Now, all of those teams from product team joined the technology team. So when we're thinking about experience designs, you've got a designer working with the developer in the same team.
Kevin, anything?
That's an interesting question. The Disney, I was just telling Kit before we came up here, that Disney actually only has like 40 and some change different UX, full-time UX people out of 150,000 people. It's just 40 core full-time UX people. So the core discipline and culture in Disney is customer experience, because we're always trying to build things to be more magical for the guest. So it's like that's straight down from Walt himself. So it's sort of a mandate to always try to think of ways to be simple, to simplify, and there's a cultural need, if you will, for even the engineers to understand that simplification, even if you're building something that is for internal tools like we do, the ultimate goal is the guest experience, with the idea that we're rooting that guest experience through how we deal with getting efficiencies created inside the company. So part of my job is to evangelize this notion and make sure that people who are building things have a good understanding. We do brown bags, you name it, to make sure that there's full stack UX right alongside the full stack development that's happening. So it's very integrated.
That's interesting. With you, and you guys all represent very different verticals. We've got telecommunications, we've got SaaS, we've got entertainment, media. I'll start with you, Kevin, I guess, on this. Like, are there specific challenges that you run into within your vertical, right? I'm very curious about some of those.
So T-Mobile and Smartsheet are individual companies. Generally speaking, have single product. And when you're dealing with B2B solutions, it's with other companies and your company. But Disney is like some other large conglomerate companies have their B2B solutions are internal. We call them business units, and they're household names: Marvel, ESPN, now Fox, several ABCs, and many others that you know. And they still run as individual businesses, but they have to be running to continue to serve up a singular customer experience, which is that magical Disney experience. So if you log into ESPN, you have the same expectation of a magical experience that you would going to DisneyWorld.com, and the same that drills right down into any customer experience or guest experience that they would have if they actually walked into a park. We want to have that same unified. That's where the challenge is, really. You have these individual business units that have their own goals. They have, to some extent, their own standards of how they want the guest experience to be. But it's our job here, just 2 blocks from here, to find ways to make all of that consistent, so that the guest gets, so they know that they're in a Disney property, a Disney business. And that is a lot harder than it sounds, or maybe it does sound hard. I'm not sure.
It sounds very hard.
So, Kit, how about you?
It's very similar to what Kevin was talking about. So Smartsheet's our culture is very customer, first. We take the customer extremely seriously, but there's no clear ownership of the customer experience. So, user experience fundamentally changed how we went about creating products, but just that holistic experience is there's no one clear owner. The other thing that makes it a challenge is we're pioneers. Smartsheet's a pioneer in the collaborative work management space. And so it's not well defined what an ideal experience is. And excuse me. And the other challenge is that Smartsheet is such a flexible tool, right? So it's all things to all people. You can do whatever you want with it. And so what's ideal for an ideal experience for one person is different for another person. So that makes it difficult.
Sure. Brian, you've got all sorts of things going on. You've got this small $25 billion thing going on with
So
Sprint.
they say, yeah.
You've got Layer 3 TV now, part of that. So you've got different products, different brands, and I'd be curious about how you're
It's funny
approaching some of that.
Yeah, if you talk to our CIO, he'll tell you all we do is we just sell one thing, a wireless subscription to the mobile internet. That's it. That's all we do. Now, it's obviously very, very simplified, but if you think about the different markets we have Layer 3 TV now. Something's happening with the Sprint merger and acquisition. We have T-Mobile for Business, or B2B stack. We have many kinds of consumer. It's primarily consumer company. So there's prioritization in each of those VPs that run these shops, and there's only so much money to go around. So when you think about funding and prioritization, that's one of the biggest challenges that we face as product and technology teams. Is we want to build great products. We want to enhance the products that we have. We want to particularly eliminate our customer pain points. But we have so much money to go around to do that.
All right, thank you. So this is where we kind of get the audience interactive portion of the program going. So on your tables, I'd like you just amongst yourselves discuss, what you saw in 2018, in your own organizations, in regarding customer experience, and if there's any unique things in your verticals that would be different than others. It'd be good to share with your team. We'll give you a couple minutes to just talk about that in each of your different tables. All right, so this is the second part of the audience interactive. Is I'm going to put someone from your tables on the spot to give a quick readout about what you chatted about. And, so let's start here with this table.
Well, actually, the one thing that just really came into my head was UX writers. You mentioned that. Just it seems like the trend has been to hire people who are dedicated writers, which as a designer, working as a designer was always a really hard task I was given personally, so I'm so happy to see that happening.
The writers just know every little, they know where all the skeletons are hidden sometimes in these applications and what have you. And we'll ask you questions as the designer. So I feel like the writers are my secret weapon a lot of times.
Yeah.
Writing skills are really hard to come by nowadays. It seems to be getting worse. So let's get more writers out there. I think it will help all of us.
I'd like to add to that. I've just recently read that if you see lorem ipsum in designs, it's a huge faux pas now.
Lazy.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, I see it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting just to chime in on that is that not only what we're seeing at Project 202 is not just the content writers, but actually a content strategist. Right? So even before you get to the writing part, but like what type of content, where do we need it? What's, if you will, a taxonomy of the content in addition to the design
content
and
is
where it
still
belongs. It's something we're seeing a lot more of now as a focus for people because
It's like the old-fashioned information architecture.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, how about this table here?
I work at Tableau Software, and
Okay.
our mission is to help people see and understand their data. Our tagline is fast, easy, beautiful, and it is with actually a recommitment to our content experience team, our UX team, our UI team. We have a very large organization that was able to staff up this year because we recognize every experience our customers have is about fast, easy, beautiful, and if we don't have them engaged on the customer-facing features, then we're falling short. Like, we have this benefit that we get to use our product. It is expected in our day-to-day, and we understand more fully what our users are experiencing. But as you were speaking, I think, is that piece of seeing how it's being used. And I'm sorry, you're right. We don't always get that visibility, and you gotta drive for it. And as a leader in the organization, I have to make sure that folks are
Experience is. So we go to our call centers. There's one in Bellingham, just up the road. So we go there quite often to see, not just from a customer standpoint, but a customer agent, experience standpoint, because the front line is absolutely critical for us. So we really take a look at what does that true customer experience look like.
Thank you. How about this table here?
At our table. So I work at Remitly, and I think in 2018 was a big year for us in growth, and we focused a lot more on agile and quick delivery so we could learn fast and grow our business. So we went from 12 corridors where we send money from and to over 300 in 1 year.
Wow.
So we focused a lot on rebuilding out our organization and making sure that we had developers, designers, and analysts, product managers, program managers within certain teams to be autonomous and deliver. However, now that we're at over 300, closing in on 400 corridors, we have a lot of learning to do. So it was really only towards the end of the year that we started to build out a user research team. That team is still growing, but now the onus is on every team because we can't just depend on a 2-person user research team to really build out the experience for our customers. So still a lot more to learn now that we went through a really scrappy expansion.
Cool.
How do we make sure the design still translate? It's not just taking the words and translating them to a different language, but making sure it's still the right design for customers all over the world.
It's important. That can get really. I remember just anecdotally GoDaddy when we were trying to template the site. We were doing different designs. There were some very interesting things that we had to be very cognizant of from geography to geography. One funny one, just anecdotally, was we had the design. We had the marquee, and it's a really cool bike shops for India. And guys, we probably small business type of thing. And we brought a guy, and he looks at us like, you can't do that. You can't have that graphics. Like, why not? It's like, it's really cool. It's like, because he's Pakistani. Like, you can't do that. It's like, how do you know he's Pakistani? He just looks Pakistani. It's like, we had to totally redo the graphic, just kind of a different thing that nobody had thought of from a design perspective. Right, you guys here?
So one of the conversations that we had was, it was actually interesting, it was about Smartsheet, right? And kind of what does Smartsheet kind of do and what their kind of position is. And I used it years ago, probably 10 plus years ago. And I actually used to work at Unger software. So I know Mark Bailey, some of the folks that used to be there. But the interesting thing is, for me, it was like, it takes something that you already know, like Excel, and it makes it so that it's like easy and accessible, right? So the parallel for me at First Choice Health out of that traditional claims payer to, we're just a connector of care, right? The question is how do you make it easy and seamless such that it's hassle-free and it's instantaneous, right? And so huge parallels between technology from a kind of like a new technology perspective to kind of old ways of doing and how you kind of connect them together. It's cool.
Okay, next topic I want to chat with our panelists about is the whole thing around CX hype. Forrester has said that 89% of companies expect to compete mostly on the basis of customer experience versus 36% 4 years ago. So, Kit, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that?
So as important as I think the customer experience is, obviously, I don't really buy into all of the hype. I just don't think that that it's well defined yet. So if you go to LinkedIn and look up customer experience architect, you'll find people who work in customer success or support or UX. And so just as a field, I just don't think it's well defined. I think companies do a good job of talking the talk, but I don't think they're walking the walk yet. So I don't buy that 89% of companies are doing this yet.
I know we talked earlier. I agree that about the role of customer experience, but as far as a mantra or a corporate objective, at T-Mobile, absolutely 1,000% customer experience based. I mean, it comes from John Ledger, our CEO, all the way down to the care agents. In fact, you could probably inverse that. There is nothing that we do. I can go into a meeting with the technology VPs to talk about a new product that we're going to launch, and the very first question that they ask is, these are bid heads, not necessarily design people. What's the customer experience look? What does the CX look like? All 1,000%. That's what they do. So it is absolutely a T-Mobile thing to identify our customer experience and make sure we have it rock solid before we launch something.
I think individual companies are going to define customer experience, which is what I might pile on, actually.
Right.
Disney would say this guest experience. And that's a very specific thing for Disney, which would not be the same as a T-Mobile guest experience.
Right.
Vastly different.
Yeah.
And sometimes even different within the different business units, as I mentioned earlier. The guest experience will be different. So.
Yeah, just to elaborate one little bit. I think the different departments are doing a great job of whatever it is they're doing. But the way Forrester talks about the splinter net, for example, and that holistic experience, I think I can't think of any great examples other than Disney. I think Disney does a great job, but other than
Thank you. I'll take that back for comments.
Right.
Take that to the CEO.
Related to that, I think it's to the hype is like how does your management team, your senior management team, see customer experience from an investment perspective as a priority? Obviously, Brian, you were saying so. They take it pretty seriously.
A critical measurement for a telecom is churn, right? Maybe other companies have a similar concept. Churn is the best identifier if customers are unhappy with this. Mm-hmm. Why are they unhappy with this? Is it a bad experience? Sometimes it's the value. Maybe Sprint or Verizon or somebody has a cheaper plan than us, but it's often the customer experience. When we focus and lock, laser focus on what the customer experience is, then that churn number is, and we're at record low churn right now. So it's.
Yeah, I'm a customer, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, you have great customer
Me too.
experience. Yeah. This is not an endorsement, just let you know. I appreciate that.
He's not paid. He doesn't have his T-Mobile swag today.
Should probably say that.
Is the T-Mobile phone ringing over there too?
You guys have any other thoughts on that from your management perspective?
There's a lot of investment into it. Like I said, the UX team started in 2014, and we're now up to 30-something and still growing. We measure, we have several different measurements. The NPS score is one measurement. The industry standard SUS, System Usability Scale, is how we measure the user experience in the product. The other thing I was thinking about is Smartsheet has, we bring in inspirational speakers every so often. And so just last week we had a speaker, Dan Heath, talking about the power of moments. And it was truly inspirational for everybody. And he was talking about creating those meaningful and impactful personalization moments for people, just in general. And so I think the very next day, Lotta put together a pilot workshop and presented it at our Customer Insights Hour that we have every Monday, and had all of the employees thinking about, what were their peak moments, and then how might we translate that into creating those peak moments for customers. And so that went over really well, and now we're planning a design thinking workshop for the executives. So the executives they truly do care about a great customer experience, and they're willing to invest their time and other resources. So.
Okay.
So I just read it's funny, I was just reading about this before this luncheon, that when the CEO buys into, is attached to the design thinking process, you see a dramatic increase almost in all levels of the business, entirely of the whole business. So things like even seemingly intangibles, 4 times the increase in customer satisfaction. That's crazy. That was a statistic that comes to mind. So yeah, being engaging at the top level is important, I think.
When you worked with Mark Mader at Onyx, was he as customer focused?
He's pretty cool. I mean, interesting enough, the whole design was kind of structured that way.
Yeah.
From a development perspective, they care more about the client, not necessarily the kind of the sales part. They're about technology.
Yeah. He is the most UX-minded CEO or executive I've ever met.
Our John Ledger, I've heard him speak or I've watched videos of him speaking at various MBA or other college graduation ceremonies. And something he says at every one of these is, listen, here's all you need to do to be a good CEO. Listen to your customers, listen to your employees, shut the fuck up and do what they say. And, that's his success.
That sounds like
yeah.
That's funny.
All
right.
I miss his cooking
Videos.
videos.
The slow cooker Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a cookbook out too. You can buy.
I have to check into that.
Yeah.
We'll talk
Yeah.
later.
That's remarkable. In front of grandparents and everything says that. I think it's hilarious at a commencement address. Okay, next audience, same form as before. So again, in your own tables, please, really quick. We'll do it a little bit quicker, maybe 5 minutes again of how your management sees in your organization's customer experience, and then I think another thing that would be an interesting topic to talk about yourselves is like what's the secret to get them bought in? Like what is something that you think would be, in your experience, that if you were to tell your executive team to get more investment, what are some of the things that they should be aware of based on your experience to help increase that investment in customer experience? So we'll do that for just a few minutes. Go ahead. So the question is how does your management see customer experience as a priority, and what are your recommendations to help them understand that and get investment? So we will start with you guys.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm from Avalara, a software company down the street. And kind of prior to this year, I feel like our management team wasn't doing a great job at advocating for customer experience because we were a leader, we solved a real problem, we have extremely low churn, it's a super sticky product, but then competitors start coming, and as we have competitors coming chomping at our heels, as well as trying to expand in the small business space, all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, we need a really good customer experience now. Everywhere from the billing touch points to customer service to the DIY side of our product, and so we're just kind of realigning, and I feel like the C-suite is noticing that and adding a lot more, not only headcount, but priority around innovating and using technologies to solve a lot of the problems we're hearing from our customers.
Thank you. You guys in the corner?
So, I most recently was with B2B Medicine, and some of the focus on customer experience is more about the continuity of care and making sure that the information shared about a patient is accessible to the other clinicians on their care team, and less about the end-to-end customer experience. So things like billing, things like insurance, things like parking, getting into appointments when you want to get into them. Those things aren't as talked about, I guess, and focused on as much as what's the transmission of care information. And so re-platformed the website from SharePoint to Blockria, and that was probably the largest customer journey mapping exercise that the organization had ever done, and we're starting to implement features like online appointing, but yeah, it's definitely a struggle to get an organization that consists of multiple entities to come together, work together on it,
Thank you. How about you guys?
So
Okay,
a couple
there you go.
things from us. One is probably one of the most important things to get our SVP of product to pay attention to UX was when another big cheese from a customer organization told him how inspired he was by the conference that we helped run interactive activities, and all of a sudden, right, they're like, oh, thank you, Keith, and your team for actually doing a good job. So if you can get from a really high-level customer to your high-level sort of exec, appreciating, not complaining how bad your experience is, but appreciating how good something is that was delivered by UX team, you're golden. And the second unexpected, not necessarily about the exec, but what we discussed about Costco and coming from customer perspective is I asked my Costco colleagues why Costco frontline employees seem to be so happy. Because I love Costco because I meet happy people there, right? And they say that because they're people, they give respect, they have their needs. So which made me think like sometimes we ignore or forget that we need to start with employee experience first. And if employees are happy, it translates into customer experience, right? And it's like literally, it quite literally translates happy people. I love going to Costco as a customer because they're happy people there who've been in their job for 20 years, and I appreciate that. So what can we do to kind of enrich our own companies to create a triple?
Thank you. How about you guys?
So it's Scott. I definitely want your story on the customer success. So it was from just for convincing senior leaders on customer experience people that a lot of data. And I think you mentioned all it takes is one bad experience and you're out, right? So showing what's happening with the customer experience and what the downstream impacts are about that are, I think, are the key convincing. One of the key things to leverage to convince the senior leadership. And we talked about test and learns at Expedia, where we go and test experience features or the shopping experience, see what's working, what's not working, and do as many of them, learn quickly, fail fast. You had a great thing about customer success.
Yeah, there was the whole customer success piece has been and you mentioned that, has momentum at DocuSign. And we were having a conversation today, and someone brought up that it can start even before you have a prospect on how you select your customers that has the most chances to have a great experience with you, that your product is much better fit into. So you start with, in a B2B environment, you start with a account-based management, well done, that allows them to choose the right profile of customers that you know will have a much better experience with you, that eventually will create even more business to you, more sticky. So it's not just, hey, we have those customers, let's go, great. So you also, once you have that experience, you choose your customers that makes the most fit with that experience.
Thank you. Guys?
One of the things we talked about a lot was a way to really embed design culture in not just the C-level, but the whole company, was design being a conduit for passing along the real experiences of the users to the rest of the team, so that people on the development team or people who are working on finance aren't just going, okay, this is my task, I do my task, what's my next task, I do my task, but they're doing, this is the why I'm doing this task, because I'm going to make Mary's job better every day because she's using our product. And you can't have 100% of people talking to users all the time, so it's the people who do have the privilege of talking to users all the time that have the responsibility to bring that message back to the rest of the team and share that motivating fact laughter and the inspiration, not just the this is what they hated stuff, but
But
this is what they
liked.
loved. And I mean, that really gets me up in the morning.
Sure.
Every morning when I think about what our users love, and I have to remember that it's my job to make sure I'm passing that message along to the rest of the team.
Yeah, focus on strengths, not on weaknesses, and build.
Yeah, and actually, Kit, I would love to hear more about your customer insight hour.
Oh.
Spirit of that.
Sure. Now?
No, that's for
Okay.
the table, and then we'll do that in the Q&A, I think. Go ahead.
I can go ahead, sure.
Sure.
So Ryan, I'm from Project 202, so we work with a lot of different companies, and we come in and we try to, again, breach that research and design ethos and try to get companies to sort of transform their process. And something that we were talking about is oftentimes when we come in in different capacities. Sometimes we come in as a full self-contained team. Sometimes it's a single designer and researcher out. But something that I've noticed, a common theme for companies that make that transition is often we work very closely with the designers themselves, and oftentimes the people on those delivery teams don't feel like they have a voice within the organization. And that's either a combination of just the way the company is structured, maybe how the team is structured. They may feel or not know the resources to go and speak that sort of customer experience language or who to talk to. So something we try to do is sit with as many of those people on that delivery side, speak with them, speak with other teams, right, and try to connect those dots so that we can have one unified voice, so that when you do go and you talk to that, C-level or VP level, you have everyone saying the same thing and bringing the same message as opposed to having a very fragmented, disjointed, 10 people saying 10 different things. So it makes it much easier to listen, helps with buy-in, and it gets the team aligned to be
Sure.
working a lot better.
That's a great insight. All right, thank you. Hey, Toby, time check. How much? 10 minutes. All right, so we got time for a couple more questions for the panelists, and then we'll go into a Q&A. So actually, probably time for one more question and then go to Q&A. So I think one that I think is interesting, because a lot of the, with the design going to delivery is, how is design in your organizations being integrated into the agile development process? Agile is, everybody's doing it at some level or form now, at some level of transformation. And be curious kind of your experience with that and some of the successes or challenges you've seen with design not being in a waterfall, but being more of an agile type of process.
That's a very interesting question. T-Mobile is, we're not a startup anymore, but we're not an old, we're not Disney. I mean, Disney's got a lot of cool things going on. We're sort of in between. We have a lot of application teams that are completely waterfall based. We have some that are completely and utterly agile, and if you say anything about waterfall, they get hives. We have people in between. So when we think about launching a new product, say we were just talking about T-Mobile Tuesdays, a cool app you can log on every Tuesday and get free stuff. We launched that about 3 years ago. So it's a huge challenge because you have teams that absolutely want to deliver something very, very quickly, such as the teams that can support those, and also the commercial, the business side. They want to have these things launched very, very fast because Verizon or AT&T might do it before we do. We cannot have that. But yet you've got some of the back-end systems, maybe in accounting or finance or we don't use Avila, but some of the taxation systems that we use aren't quite as fast. So we have to identify what the MVP is. That's a big focus now, is how do you define what is that minimum viable product that you can launch to launch value to the marketplace, and then later on, as the other teams catch up, do the financial or back office or accounting kind of thing. So we kind of have to have a clear definition of what MVP is.
Sure.
And that really helps us with a disjointed, agile, and waterfall and hairs on fire development life cycles.
Kit, you have a
I was very fortunate because when I worked at Bloomberg Government, which was a startup within the larger company, it was a true it was just off the ground for a couple of months when I joined, and we didn't have our own developers, so we hired ThoughtWorks, and 2 of the guys that wrote the Agile Manifesto came from ThoughtWorks. So they came in with all their Agile coaches, and we went through intense training, and because they are Agile purists.
You cannot change
almost
them.
over the top. But it was awesome. It was just an awesome experience. The challenge for design, though, is you've got to be out in front of these 2-week sprints. You have to have your strategy figured out and your usability testing done, and let alone generative research, right? So that is a challenge. At Smartsheet, there's several different product teams, and we have researchers embedded and designers embedded on each product team, and the teams are going about, how they go about Agile in a different way. So that's a challenge. Today, however, we have Agile coaches at the office today and tomorrow.
We have as well.
Intense training, which I've been asking for a long time, so I'm excited about that. So it'll be nice when all the teams are kind of on the same cadence, following the same process.
Same ceremonies, same.
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
So I had the benefit of working at CollabNet for a couple of years in my career, and they build agile tools. And so they were on a strict agile. Reminded me of those guys. So the practice for me was painful at the beginning, but then once you learn to work in agile, it was a little liberating for some aspects of it. And so bringing that thought process with Disney in the last few years, we went through a little bit of some pain because Disney, being a behemoth, has a lot of waterfall also built into it. But the types of things that we were building were to create applications that drove down costs, created efficiencies, and automated a lot of things. And that, by its nature, needed an agile process. So, and because you have this contradiction of, well, we have these kind of older ways to do things, but we need these things to be agile, these new processes, new applications. I took a couple of calculated risks in my position and jumped in and built some things that they didn't want to be built, but once we're there, found them to be very useful. And one of those things was building a pattern library that the engineers could donate to as they built things. And it's everything from documentation to code base. So, and they're widgetized. So we could build rapidly, and it fits really well with an agile system of working, so that people can peel off, almost in a Kanban fashion, peel off what they need from the library, integrate it into their story, and then when the story's done and everything's tested, we can pull it back into the library. And then the other teams can use the same thing that they just got through building. So that has created huge efficiencies. The proof's in the pudding. I'm still there. Thankfully, they want to keep me around. So
we're in the process of building out something very similar. If you ask if a customer goes into a store and wants to buy a new iPhone, you could ask 5 people how that works, and you get 6 different answers. So we're actively going through now and documenting, cataloging what are these experiences, so that you can use them. Because those types of things you can use over and over and over again. Right?
Sure.
So we're absolutely building out the
and
library.
you can iterate on them.
So that's the challenge. Once you have the
need.
library built, you can't let it collect dust. You've got to keep updating as you change the process.
It needs to be living
so,
constantly.
Yeah.
So that's great.
That's very helpful. So we have a few minutes left. I want to just get some times for questions from you guys all to the panelists. So someone had a question about that. Please start.
Yeah, my question was, you mentioned you're every Monday having a customer insight hour, and I'm always looking for ways, like I said, to bring some of the excitement of talking directly to
I like
users.
Cassie's persistence.
Yes. Back to the team. So could you tell us more about that?
Sure, and then you, Lotta, and I should chat even further after this is over. But so, like I said, we have researchers embedded on all of the different product teams, and so there's lots of insights to share. And so every Monday there's Customer Insights Hour. Bring your own lunch, and there will be a topic. And everybody from the company is welcome to join. There's only so many seats in the conference rooms, but we open it up to through video conferencing, and so people tune in from our Boston office and London office and Edinburgh, and we're not the only people who have insights to share, and so we open it up to, sometimes we have presenters from customer success. Where else, Lotta? Where are some of the other?
Sales engineering, product
And it really helps. It's just awesome and inspiring everybody, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, and turning other people into evangelizers for a human-centered process, right? And so there's just only so many of us, so we need everybody to be thinking about the customer and making those experiences better. So it's a really awesome tool for that.
So you're presenting not just quantitative data, but qualitative and like anecdotal.
Stories. We also go on a lot of customer site visits and do workshops with customers. We partner with customer success, and so we'll send a designer, researcher, product manager, do on-site workshops, take prototypes, get feedback, present on usability testing, just you name it. So it's quantitative, qualitative, stories, anecdotes.
Okay, great.